Hey, what's up guys, Tech9 here and I'm back again with a brand new video. Before I begin this one, as always, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you do enjoy my video, don't be a stranger, make sure you subscribe. Also, leave a thumbs up. It helps out the channel quite a bit. So with that being said, today I'm finally taking a look at the Galaxy A26 and I've spent a few hours with this phone, but I have a couple of thoughts. Beginning with the obvious one, which is the design itself, I want to say that this phone looks pretty much like a Galaxy A36 from the back. I don't really think you can tell them apart if you put them side by side. So definitely a familiar formula, and I guess it keeps the lineup very uniform from the A26 to the A36 to even the A56. Now, the one that I ended up getting is an international version, and that's for a very specific reason that I will mention later on in the video. But basically, the back still gives you that same glossy Gorilla Glass Victus Plus. Basically, adds an extra layer of durability. However, the reason I chose the color white is because while this phone still is going to be a fingerprint magnet, it's very, very difficult to tell that if you have kind of a really light color. And a very familiar story even when it comes to the button layout. So the power button / fingerprint sensor and the volume up and down is in a very, very familiar kind of layout, especially with this indentation that is smaller from the previous generation, which makes it easier to kind of click on the buttons and have a better grip of the phone. On the bottom of the phone, the USB-C port does support up to 25 watt of wire charging, as well as a loudspeaker on the bottom. And the rails of the phone are made out of plastic, but that's something to be expected for a $299 phone. Now, as far as the display is when I think a lot of people are going to have mixed feelings about. Now, it's definitely a good quality display, so it's a 1080p Super AMOLED, 120Hz. However, I feel like we should address the elephant in the room, and that is the teardrop notch and the overly sized chin at the bottom. So I know a lot of people are not going to be a fan of that. So the teardrop notch is something that I feel like shouldn't be a thing on phones anymore, but that's my personal opinion. But the overly sized chin is just, I don't know, it doesn't look right on this phone for whatever reason, especially looking at the A36 and looking at this phone. Just, I guess they had to make them stand out from each other, but golly, not like that. Okay, so other than that though, this is definitely a really good display. I do have to say that it doesn't really get as quite bright as the Galaxy A36, but overall though, as a quality display, it's there. It's really good. Now, the reason I ended up going with the international version is one, I was able to get 8 GB of RAM plus 256 GB storage and a better chipset theoretically. So if you get the global version, you get the Exynos 1380 versus the US version, which is the Exynos 1280. Plus, in the US version, you have either 4 gigs of RAM or 6 gigs of RAM, but the international version you can up that to 256 GB of storage and 8 GB of RAM. Plus, you get more color options if you do pick the international version. If you go to the Samsung website on the US version, you only stuck with one color option, which I think is just kind of boring at that point. But from a performance perspective, the international version is really nice. It's fluid, smooth, but I guess you would expect that from a phone that comes out fresh out of the box. Multitasking on here, I didn't really have an issue with. The daily tasks, I didn't have an issue with, but I do have to do some more testing to kind of really put this phone through its paces from a performance perspective. So stay tuned for the full review when it comes to that. Now, as far as the camera conversation, here's what I have to say. So you get a triple camera setup, a 50 megapixel main sensor, which is a f1.8 aperture. You also get an 8 megapixel f2.2 120 degree field of view ultra wide, as well as a 2 megapixel macro sensor. And this phone is capable of shooting up to 4K 30 frames per second video. Now, the initial impressions is this is definitely a good camera. I do have to say that it's damn near on par with the Galaxy A36, so not a lot of main changes between the A36's camera versus the A26's camera, which I guess thumbs up. If you're looking for a good camera but you don't want to spend a lot of money, this $299 phone is an option. So my overall first impression of this phone is definitely positive. It is $100 cheaper than the Galaxy A36, and I do have to mention also it does support IP67 water and dust resistance, but basically this is definitely going to be a good option for people who really don't want to spend a lot of money on a phone and still want to enjoy the device that they use. I think this is going to be a good option. So stay tuned for an actual full review, and if you guys want to see a full camera review, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, so with that being said, I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. Let me know, and I will definitely catch you guys in the next one. Appreciate you all for watching.